Welcome to Real Talk Vietnam. If this is your first time visiting Vietnam, this video is for you. Vietnam is beautiful, exciting, affordable, chaotic, warm, confusing, delicious, and sometimes overwhelming, all at the same time. And that is exactly why you should not plan your first trip based only on pretty Instagram photos, random TikToks, or a rushed itinerary that tries to fit 8 cities into 10 days. In this video, I'm going to give you a realistic beginner's guide to Vietnam. What to prepare before you go, how to arrive smoothly, how to use money and apps, where to go on your first trip, what mistakes to avoid, and how to enjoy Vietnam without feeling lost. This is not a luxury travel ad, this is real talk. Let's start with the first thing most first-time visitors worry about: the visa. As of this recording, Vietnam offers an e-visa option for travelers from all countries and territories, with a stay duration of up to 90 days and multiple entries. But visa rules can change, so always check the official Vietnam immigration or tourism website before you book your flight. Do not rely only on travel blogs, Facebook groups, or third-party visa websites. For most first-time travelers from the United States or Canada, the e-visa is the simplest path. You apply online, upload your passport information, upload a portrait photo, choose your entry and exit details, pay the fee, and wait for approval. Here is the real talk. Check every letter of your name, your passport number, your date of birth, and your entry date very carefully. A tiny typo can create a big problem at the airport. Also, save both a digital copy and a printed copy of your e-visa. You may never need the paper copy, but when you are standing at immigration after a long flight, having a backup is never a bad idea. If you are flying into Ho Chi Minh City, especially Tan Son Nhut International Airport, check before departure whether you need to complete any pre-arrival information form. Vietnam has been piloting a digital pre-arrival system there, and it may help reduce waiting time at immigration. Now let's talk about when to visit. Vietnam is a long country, and the weather is not the same everywhere at the same time. A common mistake is thinking Vietnam has one simple best season. It does not. Hanoi in the north, Da Nang and Hoi An in central Vietnam, and Ho Chi Minh City in the south can feel like 3 different countries in terms of weather. In general, many first-time visitors like the months from around November to April because the weather is usually more comfortable in many parts of the country. But this depends on your route. Northern Vietnam can be cool in winter. Central Vietnam has its own rainy and stormy season. Southern Vietnam is warm most of the year with a dry season and a rainy season. So instead of asking, what is the best time to visit Vietnam? Ask this: what cities am I visiting, and what will the weather be like there? That question will save you from packing the wrong clothes and planning the wrong route. Now let's talk about where to go. If this is your first trip to Vietnam, please do not try to see everything. Vietnam looks small on a map, but travel between cities takes time. Domestic flights, airport transfers, traffic, hotel check-ins, and delays can eat up a lot of your trip. For a first visit, I recommend choosing one of 3 simple routes. Route 1, the classic first-time route: Hanoi, Ninh Binh, Ha Long Bay, or Lan Ha Bay, then Da Nang and Hoi An. This route gives you old streets, limestone landscapes, a bay cruise, beaches with food, history, and a very photogenic old town, without forcing you to cross the entire country. Route 2, the north to south route: Hanoi, Ninh Binh, Ha Long Bay, Hue, Hoi An, Ho Chi Minh City, and the Mekong Delta. This is better if you have at least 2 weeks and you want a broader picture of Vietnam. Route 3, the nature and adventure route: Hanoi, Ninh Binh, Ha Giang or Sapa, and Ha Long Bay or Cat Ba. This is for travelers who care more about mountains, scenery, and landscapes than beaches or nightlife. Here is my honest advice: if you only have 7 days, do not do Hanoi, Ha Long Bay, Da Nang, Hoi An, Ho Chi Minh City, and the Mekong Delta all in one trip. Can you do it? Technically, yes. Will it be enjoyable? Probably not. You will spend too much time moving and not enough time experiencing. Vietnam rewards travelers who slow down. Now let's talk about money. Vietnam is affordable compared with the United States or Canada, but it is not free travel. If you only chase the cheapest possible experience, you may end up with bad hotels, stressful transportation, and tours that waste your time. For first-time visitors, I recommend carrying a mix of cash and card. In major cities, many hotels, modern restaurants, malls, and larger businesses accept cards. But cash is still very important for street food, local markets, small shops, taxis in some situations, tips and rural areas. Use Vietnamese dong, not US dollars, for normal daily spending. Before you arrive, learn the basic money feeling. 10,000 dong is a small amount. 100,000 dong is still only a few dollars. 500,000 dong is the largest common banknote, and tourists sometimes confuse it with smaller notes because of the zeros. Take your time when paying. There is no shame in counting carefully. Also use ATMs connected to reputable banks, avoid random exchange counters with strange rates, and always check your bill before leaving a restaurant or shop. Now let's talk about transportation. For first-time visitors, Grab is one of the most useful apps in Vietnam. You can use it for cars and motorbike rides in many cities. It shows the price before you book, reduces the need to negotiate, and helps avoid many taxi misunderstandings. If it is your first day in Vietnam, I strongly recommend using GrabCar instead of immediately jumping on a motorbike taxi. Give yourself time to understand the traffic. Vietnam traffic can look wild at first, especially in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City. Motorbikes come from every direction, sidewalks are not always clear, and crossing the street can feel impossible. But there is a rhythm. When crossing the street, do not run suddenly. Walk slowly, predictably, and keep moving. Let drivers read your movement. If you panic, stop, or sprint, you make it harder for them to react. And if you are not comfortable, wait for locals and cross with them. Do not rent a motorbike on your first trip unless you are experienced, properly licensed, insured, and comfortable with local traffic. A motorbike accident is one of the fastest ways to ruin your trip. Now, safety. Vietnam is generally a safe country for tourists, but safe does not mean you should be careless. The most common problems for tourists are not violent crime. They are petty theft, phone snatching, overcharging, taxi issues, confusing tour quality, and simple misunderstandings. Keep your phone away from the street side when walking. Do not leave your bag hanging loosely from a chair. Do not flash large amounts of cash. Use a crossbody bag or a secure day pack in busy areas. When booking tours, read recent reviews carefully. The cheapest tour is not always the best value. For taxis, use reputable companies or ride-hailing apps when possible. For nightlife, watch your drink, know how you are getting home, and do not assume every friendly stranger has good intentions. That does not mean you should be scared. It means you should travel like an adult. Now let's talk about food. Vietnamese food is one of the best reasons to visit Vietnam. But for first-time visitors, street food can feel intimidating. You may wonder, is it safe? What do I order? What if I cannot speak Vietnamese? What if I choose the wrong place? Here is a simple beginner rule. Go where the food is moving. A busy local place with high turnover is usually better than an empty place that looks tourist-friendly but has food sitting around. Start with beginner-friendly dishes. Pho is the obvious one. Noodle soup, usually beef or chicken. Banh mi is a great first street food. A Vietnamese baguette with meat, herbs, pickled vegetables, and sauce. Bun cha in Hanoi is grilled pork with noodles and herbs. Com tam in Ho Chi Minh City is broken rice, usually with grilled pork. Goi quan, or fresh spring rolls, are light and easy. Vietnamese coffee is also a must. Try iced milk coffee, egg coffee in Hanoi, coconut coffee, or salt coffee if you see it. If you have dietary restrictions, allergies, or you do not eat pork, seafood, peanut, singum, peanuts, or gluten, prepare translated notes on your phone before you travel. Do not assume every vendor will understand English. A simple translated food allergy card can save you a lot of stress. Now let's talk about hotels and where to stay. For your first trip, location matters more than saving $5 per night. In Hanoi, many first-time visitors stay around the Old Quarter, Hoan Kiem, or nearby areas because it is walkable and close to food, cafes, and attractions. In Ho Chi Minh City, District 1 is convenient for first-timers, but some areas can be noisy. If you want something calmer, look at nearby central neighborhoods, depending on your style and budget. In Da Nang, decide whether you want to stay near the beach or closer to the city. In Hoi An, you can stay near the ancient town for convenience, or slightly outside if you want a quieter hotel or resort feel. Always read recent reviews, especially about noise, construction, cleanliness, location, and airport transfer. Vietnam changes quickly. A hotel that was perfect 2 years ago may now be next to a construction site. Now let's talk about culture and etiquette. Vietnamese people are generally warm and helpful, but communication can be indirect. Sometimes yes means I understand you, not always yes, that is possible. Be patient. Do not raise your voice in public. It usually makes the situation worse. Dress respectfully when visiting temples, pagodas, or historical places. Cover shoulders and knees when appropriate. Take off your shoes when entering someone's home, and sometimes in small local places if you see others doing it. Ask before taking close-up photos of people, especially older people, children, monks, vendors, or anyone working. And learn a few basic Vietnamese words. Xin chào means hello. Cam on means thank you. Bao nhiêu means how much. Kong kai means not spicy. Kong thit heo means no pork. Even if your pronunciation is not perfect, the effort matters. Now let's talk about common first-time mistakes. Mistake number 1, planning too many cities. Vietnam is not a checklist. Slow down. Mistake number 2, arriving without a working SIM or eSIM plan. You need internet for maps, Grab, translation, hotel messages, and emergency situations. Mistake number 3, assuming card works everywhere. Bring cash. Mistake number 4, booking the cheapest possible tour. Cheap can be good, but suspiciously cheap often means crowded, rushed, or low quality. Mistake number 5, not checking airport details. Vietnam has multiple airports, and some cities are farther apart than they look. Double-check whether you are flying into Hanoi, Da Nang, or Ho Chi Minh City, and check your arrival time before booking transfers. Mistake number 6, packing like Vietnam is only tropical. Northern Vietnam can be cool. Mountain areas can be cold. Rain can surprise you. Mistake number 7, being afraid of local food. Start simple, choose busy places and build confidence. Mistake number 8, judging Vietnam too quickly. Your first day may feel chaotic. The traffic, heat, noise, language, and jet lag can be a lot. Give yourself 24 to 48 hours. Vietnam often becomes easier after the first day. So what should your first day look like? Here is my recommendation. Do not plan a full sightseeing schedule on arrival day. Land, clear immigration, get your SIM or eSIM working, withdraw some cash, go to your hotel, shower, rest, eat something simple, and take a short walk around your area. That is enough. Your first day is not for proving you are a super traveler. It is for adjusting. On day 2, start exploring. Take a food tour, join a walking tour, visit 1 or 2 major sites, learn how Grab works, and get familiar with the rhythm of the city. After that, Vietnam becomes much easier. Now let's wrap this up. If you are visiting Vietnam for the first time, remember these 5 things. 1. Check your visa and entry requirements before booking. 2. Choose a realistic route, not an overloaded itinerary. 3. Use cash, Grab, maps, and translation tools to make life easier. 4. Stay alert, but do not be afraid. 5. Slow down enough to actually enjoy the country. Vietnam is not always the easiest destination for first-time travelers, but it can be one of the most rewarding. The food, the landscapes, the energy, the coffee, the people, the history, and the everyday street life can stay with you long after you leave. That is why this channel exists. Real Talk. Vietnam is here to help you understand Vietnam before you go, without fear, without hype, and without tourist traps. If this video helped you, subscribe to Real Talk Vietnam for more honest Vietnam travel guides. In the next videos, we will go deeper into e-visas, scams to avoid, the best first-time itinerary, airport arrival, money, apps, and food. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next Real Talk Vietnam guide.